Now, the third step within the business case process is to define outcome-focused objectives. Now, this sounds like a fairly subtle statement, but the key message here is our objectives can't be focused around a particular solution. So, for example, if I'm developing a business case to implement a new system, I may be implementing that system because I want to improve compliance in the organization or I want to improve efficiency. So, my objective is not to implement a new system. My objective is to improve compliance, to improve efficiency for the organization. And then that allows us to look at different options of how we might be able to deliver that. And one of those might be with a new system, and it might be with many different variants of a new system as well. So the outcome focus is really, really important. Now, when we define these objectives, we also want to bear in mind this SMART structure. Um, and the SMART structure is we're looking at it being specific, so we want to make sure that the options, or the objectives that we're defining are going to be short and succinct, and it's clear in terms of what we're trying to deliver and meet. Now, the aim of this is that not having one big long paragraph that's full of several objectives. Very often we can see them more as a short, succinct bullet point. We might have 3, 4, 5, 6 objectives for our particular business case. We also need to bear in mind that they're measurable. Now, measurable can become a little bit more complex. It's not necessarily within the objective statement, but we do need to think about how are we going to measure success. So my simple example that I just used, we're going to improve compliance or we're going to improve efficiency. Well, are we currently tracking that? Do we measure that? What is our current compliance and where do we want it to go to? And do we actually have the measurement system in place? And these are things that we need to bear in mind. And the more in depth your business case gets, the more tricky it becomes, that measurement. But it's really important to make sure that we're focusing on the right things and we can then measure the success of our case at the end of it. The business case also needs to be achievable. Um, and with that, it sounds very obvious, but sometimes the feedback with business cases as we come through is, well, we can't deliver that in that amount of time, and therefore it's not achievable. So we need to make sure the size, the scale, the resources, everything fits, and what we're trying to achieve is something that is we can deliver. So sometimes actually achieving, for example, go back to my compliance statement, having perfect compliance might not be achievable. In some cases, we might need to make that happen, but there's a cost to that. So this is what is truly achievable for what we're deriving for our business case. The relevant is something we're going to come to in terms of the next step, but the relevant there is making sure that this should align with our strategic priorities. So again, this can be dealt with separately within the case, but it is a very fair point that we shouldn't be trying to do anything that doesn't meet the strategic priorities of the organization. And then time bound. Well, time bound can be a little bit more tricky within the business case, but we do need to give a concept of time. If there's a deadline, if there's a drop dead date, then we need to be calling that out as part of the objectives. But we also need to give an indication of actually how long it will take to achieve these objectives. Is it a year, 2 years, 3 years? We might need to frame that in terms of from the start of implementation or there's a particular date, but giving an indication of time then tries to set the expectations in terms of what's going to be delivered. So all in all, our objectives are a really key part. They're really here proposing the solution to the problem that we've defined in step one. But what we're doing here is we're painting them in a way that we're going to overcome those as they're outcome focused, and that will allow us later on to then develop different options which will try to achieve those outcomes.